Here are 6 interesting knowledge that you probably didn't give a fuck about but will cherish upon their acquisition. Okay, might cherish. Emphasis on the might, as it's a big might, but it gets better, I think. Okay, anyways. Number 1. Your brain doesn't actually see the world in continuous real time. Instead, it constructs your perception of reality through rapid, predictive interpretation of fragmented sensory information. Ponder on that. Let me simplify that for those of you who probably have smoke coming out of your heads, LOL. You see, what you see isn't what is there exactly. Your brain actively builds your version of that reality. This is why empathy is such a green flag. Everything we experience is subjected to a highly sophisticated construction at a neurological level by the brain. Here's how it works. Basically, your brain constantly receives incomplete and sometimes ambiguous data from your senses. It then leaps into action, rapidly filling the gaps, making predictions based on past experiences and current context, creating a coherent and seemingly real-time movie of your surroundings. Your brain essentially makes educated guesses. This is why optical illusions work. They exploit these predictive mechanisms of the brain and highlight the fact that what you see isn't always a direct reflection of what's actually out there. This also explains why different people can perceive the same event in vastly different ways, as their brains might be making a slight differentiation in interpretations based on their individual histories and biases. This highlights the power of expectation and attention. What you expect to see influences what your brain constructs, and what you focus your attention on becomes a more detailed part of your perceived reality. Your everyday experience is more of a clever interpretation by your brain than a direct recording of the world. Understanding this gives you a peek behind the curtain of consciousness, revealing the amazing and sometimes fallible architect of your everyday experience, perhaps creating a more nuanced and compassionate view of yourself and others. Number 2. Everything around you, including you, is mostly just empty space. Yeah. Everything, right from humans to objects to animals to basically anything we see and touch, are made up of matter, and this matter is fundamentally made up of very tiny particles called atoms. Now, these atoms are composed of tiny, incredibly dense nucleus that contains protons and neutrons, which are surrounded by electrons orbiting at a relatively enormous distance, basically like a tiny solar system, with the nucleus being the sun and the electrons being the planets. Since nearly all of an atom's mass is concentrated in its nucleus, the rest of the atom is mostly empty, making it to be over 99.9% empty space. Here's an analogy. If you were to scale up an atom to the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be no larger than a marble in the center, and the electrons would be like tiny specks whizzing around the outer edges of the stadium. The space in between, almost entirely empty. Now, when you sit on a chair, the reason you don't fall through isn't because your atoms and the chair's atoms are solid and touching in the way we perceive solidity. Instead, it's due to electromagnetic forces between the electrons in your atoms and the electrons in the chair's atoms repelling each other, just like how magnets push each other without actually touching. So when you touch something solid, you aren't really touching solid stuff. You're simply feeling the tiny bits of atoms pushing each other away because of the invisible forces. Essentially, the feeling of solidity is all an illusion, at an atomic level at least. Even you thinking you're solid is an illusion. You see, humans are made up of a cell, the basic unit of existence, tens of trillions of them. These cells are in turn made up of hundreds of trillions of molecules, and these molecules are then made up of these empty spaces called atoms, uncountable at this point, and they are all bonded together. Hence, in essence, you are nothing but an empty space. Yes, your parents were right. And one last cool fact about this topic is that there are more components within a single person than there are stars in the observable universe. That's right. In short, if you could somehow remove all that empty space within the atoms that make up a human being, the entire human race could fit into the volume of a single sugar cube. Insane, right? Yeah. Anyways, on to the next one. Number 3. You are bacteria. That's right. Well, more bacteria than you are human. Scientists estimate that the number of bacterial cells in and on your body outnumbers your own human cells by a significant margin, estimated at a ratio of around 1.3 to 1. These trillions of tiny inhabitants are collectively known as your microbiome, and they play crucial roles in digestion, immunity, and even potentially influencing your mood and behavior. So essentially, you are a walking, talking ecosystem. I think that is better than calling you a bacteria, LOL. Anyways, this just simply means you're not a solo act, but instead a bustling, microscopic metropolis. Think about it for a moment. you're walking around, making grand pronouncements, having existential crises, all while being a mobile microbial resort. They're probably having their own tiny dramas down there, gossiping about the weird white liquid you just swallowed or staging tiny revolts when you try that bizarre food combination you've always craved, like pineapple on pizza. So next time you look in the mirror, remember, you're not just gazing at you, but instead you're looking at a complex, squirming, often gassy, and undeniably fascinating alliance between you and a cast of trillions of tiny, unseen co-inhabitants. You're less of a lone wolf and more of a walking, talking, and slightly outnumbered ecosystem. A truly humbling thought as to how we are, in many ways, a partnership between different forms of life. Makes you think about who's really in charge, doesn't it? Number 4. Have you ever been convinced that someone you know and hold dear to your heart might actually be a clone? Like you have this strong belief that your family, pets, partner, or friends are actually identical imposters. If that is you, then I think you need mental help, because you are suffering from a mental problem known as Capgras delusion. This phenomenon is very rarely discussed and might even be unheard of to most people. Apparently, around 1% or less of the global population is aware of its existence. However, a large percentage of the world do know about the concept of someone they know being replaced, just that they either believe it's conspiracy or fiction, or they do not know what such phenomenon is called. But yeah, it's a real thing. Also, it's an extremely rare case, with it affecting only about 0.12% of the world's population. That's like 9.84 million persons out of over 8.2 billion. And even from that number, it is usually identified in individuals with pre-existing mental illnesses. So that's like basically saying that if you're a Barcelona or Manchester United fan, you're in greater danger of contracting this illness. Sad. The cause of this illness, according to researchers, is often linked to disruption in the brain areas responsible for emotional processing, particularly the amygdala. The brain can process visual information and recognize the face, but the crucial, familiar emotional response that confirms "this is my loved one" is not triggered, leading to the unsettling conclusion that this person, whose face, voice, appearance, and mannerisms you've always known, is an imposter. Some crazy psychological horror thriller type shit for real, man. Like, just imagine waking up one morning and when you look at the person right next to you, and boom, they are fake. Like you've known them for years, they look the same, sound the same, even know all the memories you've had together, but you are convinced that they've been replaced. Your pet, that furry friend that has always been with you, has somehow been either stolen, unalived, or replaced by a clone to watch your every move and ensure that you are kept in check by the Freemasons and Illuminati who want your soul because you've been predicted to. Okay. A bit much, but still a quite daunting phenomenon. Number 5. This one is a great example of how perception often differs from reality. Do you know that the average cloud weighs over 1 million pounds? That's right, those fluffy, airy things you see floating so lightly around the sky could crush you. To put it into perspective, an average cloud has the same weight as 5 adult blue whales. Yeah. Now, by average cloud, I mean a cumulus cloud. They are those puffy detached clouds that are shaped like a cotton ball or cauliflower, typically associated with fair weather. Cumulus clouds can range in size, with some being wider than they are tall, called cumulus humilis, and others being taller than they are wide, called cumulus congestus, which sometimes develop into cumulum culum nimbus. Yes, cumulonimbus clouds. So, why is the average cloud so heavy, you ask? Well, here's the reason. If you didn't ask, listen anyways. The average clouds consist of trillions upon trillions of tiny water droplets or ice crystals which are immersed into the cumulus cloud's massive volume, which is around 1 billion cubic meters. That's like the volume of 400 pyramids of Giza or having 1,000 Empire State Buildings packed together. Crazy. Now, the average density of water within a cumulus cloud is estimated to be around 0.5 grams per cubic meter. With a volume of 1 billion cubic meters, this results in a total water mass of 500 million grams or approximately 1.1 million pounds. So yeah, real crazy. Do note though, all cloud sizes are not equal, with some being significantly lighter like the cirrus clouds. They weigh approximately 110,000 pounds, about 15 to 20 adult African elephants, while some others are way heavier like the cumulonimbus clouds, which could weigh billions of pounds. The cumulus cloud is the benchmark due to being more common and recognizable, having more defined individual structure. They are the quintessential carton cloud, and their common sightings and familiarity make them a natural choice for a general average. Number 6. The Eiffel Tower is taller in the summer than in the winter. Yep, that solid, unyielding structure stretches up to 6 inches or 15 centimeters every year. This isn't some spooky phenomenon though, like, oh, the tower is alive and breathing or some sheep. Nah, it's just simple science. Earlier in this video I spoke about atoms, how everything is made of it and how the idea of solidity is an illusion. Yeah, the same idea applies here. The Eiffel Tower is made up of iron, and iron expands when it gets hotter and contracts when it gets colder. During the heat of summer, the sun's energy causes the iron in the Eiffel Tower's structure to heat up. As the temperature increases, the iron atoms gain more energy and vibrate more vigorously, causing them to move slightly further apart. This tiny expansion across the entire massive structure adds up, resulting in an increase in the tower's height. This is called thermal expansion. Conversely, in the cold of winter, the iron cools down, the atoms lose energy and vibration is reduced, causing the entire structure to contract slightly. This makes the Eiffel Tower shorter, the process being called thermal contraction or thermal shrinkage. It's a subtle change that you'd never notice with the naked eye. It does make you wonder about all the other seemingly static things around us that are, constantly changing subtly in response to their environment. Like that teddy bear or toy you have, thinking they just sit one place all day but low-key, they move around and do their own thing when you ain't looking. So yeah, science is cool.